Nice. I just recorded the intro and realised my camera wasn't recording. So, I didn't record the intro, but yeah, anyway. Hello everyone, welcome back to another book review. Today I am joined by my co-host. She's called Molly. Hello Molly. But yeah, today I'm going to be reviewing... This isn't the right book. That's the second book. Yeah, this is going well, isn't it? Okay. Today I am going to be reviewing Gardens of the Moon, which is the first book in Malazan Book of the Fallen series. What this series is, it's an epic fantasy series that spans many, many books. I think the main series is 10 books, and each one is like nearly 1,000 pages. So they're very, very big books. If something like that is something that intimidates you, and you're not into big series with lots and lots of pages, then maybe this isn't something for you. I'm just saying that at the start now, just to let you know. Oh, looks like our co-host is moving. Oh, nice, lovely. She's choosing to clean herself whilst I'm reviewing this book. Thanks, Molly. Okay. Anyway, let's just talk and ignore that happening in the background. But yeah, anyway, let's just get into the review of this book. So straight off the bat, this book is dense. Not just in word count and page count. I think it's like just over 700 pages, yep. But I mean dense in terms of the amount of characters there are, the amount of things that are going on, just the size of the world. I think there's like 12 different continents in the entire world. So, you know, it's very, very big. But this one only takes place in one of them, which is Genebrakis. I might be saying it wrong. So it basically follows a large amount of different characters during a campaign in this continent where the Malazan Empire is basically trying to expand their dominion, take over this continent. That's basically what you need to know. But one of the major things I did find about this book is that you are kind of just thrown into the middle of things. There's not a lot of explanation of what's going on or of what's going on around you or who these people are that you're following. You're just kind of thrown right in. Now at the start this can be quite disorientating. I found it a bit confusing, but I was prepared for it because I'd heard a lot about the series and I did know that the first book was quite a lot like this. So I decided to push through it because I knew that there would be a big payoff afterwards. And there definitely was a big payoff because at first, although you will be confused at the beginning, later on things will start to make sense slowly, and I think this just makes it so much more satisfying and you just enjoy it so much because you really appreciate what's going on when you start to actually understand what's happening. I think a good way of putting it is that the author, Stephen Erickson, is actually an archaeologist, or he was an archaeologist, I'm not sure, but you're basically having to do what he would have to do and uncover the bones of the story and sort of figure out what's happening and who these characters are as he would in his line of work. So it's kind of funny, the comparison there. The reason why it can be quite confusing is because basically he literally said in the introduction at the beginning before the book, he doesn't like spoon feeding readers. He's not a fan of just explaining everything that's going on, explaining the world and the characters. He likes to actually give you clues and, you know, give you little crumbs of what is to come or what's going on and let you figure out yourself. And I actually really enjoyed this. I found it very different. Like, I really enjoyed having to work to sort of figure out the world and what was going on. Like, at the beginning, you're basically put into a scene where it's the aftermath of a siege of a place called Pale. So the Empire has besieged this city, one of the last remaining free cities of Genebrakis. But during this scene, there's a lot of, like, magical things going on, and you literally have no idea what's happening. And the magic is very mysterious. It's definitely a soft magic system, not a hard magic system. You know, like Branderson type magic systems where you have all these rules and you know exactly how the magic works and all of its limitations. In this, it's very, very different. You really don't know how it works or what's going on or why these people can use it. But over the story, you do start to learn a few more things about it. And I think over the course of the series, you will learn a lot about it. But there's these things called warrens, which are basically like portals to other dimensions. That's how I kind of saw it. And in these dimensions, the power can be like pulled from it and then harnessed to do their magical things. And some of these warrens are like owned by gods and things. There's a lot of weird stuff going on. Speaking of gods, gods do play a part in this book, which was really, really cool to see how it's not just something that's happening on a personal, mortal level, but there's also like, there's more to it where the gods are actually playing their part too. And it's really interesting. There's so many different sides. I can't even begin to explain how many different ambitions and goals and sides there are to this. There's so many different people playing for their own reasons. So it's just really, really interesting but mind-boggling to read. I literally had to make notes for myself and I noted about each character, their description of what they looked like and just a few tendencies of the character. I did this. I know it could seem a bit extreme, but I'm glad I did it because it really helped me grasp the story a lot easier than I would have if I didn't do that, because I got to know the characters a lot better. And if I did kind of think, wait, who's that? I just kind of checked my notes and eventually I wasn't having to check, and that felt really satisfying because there's so many characters in this book. but I feel like I can name lots of them too. But to name a few of the main ones, there's Whiskey Jack. He's basically the leader of this group of military people called the Bridge Burners, and they're one of the more important sort of groups of characters. They have their own little, camaraderie. I quite liked following those characters. Those were probably one of my favorite groups to follow. Then there's also Geos Paran, I think he's called. I can't remember his first name, but it's Paran. Most people just call him by his surname. I did quite like his character. He was one of my favorites. He's like a captain character who's sent in to look over the Bridge Burners, and then he ends up getting mixed up in the scheming of the gods and the scheming of the Empire, Empress Lassine and her lot, and Lorne, who is the sort of second hand to the Empress. He gets drawn into her business, and basically there's so much stuff going on all these different sides. So yeah, I do definitely recommend that you take notes on everything, the characters and the places, because it will pay off later. But yeah, so even though at first it's overwhelming and you don't really understand what's going on, eventually it really, really, really does pay off, and I'm hooked. And I've already ordered the second book, and I got it today, and I'm going to be eating this thing up very soon. So I'm really hooked. Although I say I'm hooked, I still don't think this is like a perfect book. I'll get into that a bit soon. But I'm also going to talk about the introduction. One thing that I do really like about the author, Steven Erikson, I really, really respect what he put, like what he said in the introduction. He basically said, have balls with what you write, I think, to quote him. Let me find the quote really quick. Ambition is not a dirty word. Piss on compromise, go for the throat. Write with balls, write with eggs. Sure, it's a harder journey, but take it from me, it's well worth it. Now, I love that. I do really respect him for that. Basically, he's just saying, don't care what people think, and that's in regards to how he wrote it. How he didn't give a lot of detail behind the world, and he let people pull the details out themselves. I do really like how he took the risk of doing this, because he actually really struggled to publish this first book. Despite the fact that it's such a popular series, he really did struggle because of that fact, but it really paid off in the end, and I do respect him for that. And I actually really, really enjoyed the fact that I had to work for these things rather than just being given them, because I think it just really gave me like a different experience of a story. That's something I hadn't really had before. So even though it was quite confusing, I think this is actually a positive for this book, because it's just a different type of book. It's almost like a puzzle, just figure everything out, and the magic, and there's still so many mysteries left to find, and it just makes you really excited for the future. But now, I'll get into one thing I didn't quite like, and that was some of the things with the character work. Now, don't get me wrong, I do like a lot of these characters. Like, a lot of these characters were really good characters that I really enjoyed reading about. But I still don't feel like the character work was as good as it could have been. I have heard this from a lot of other people, and I definitely agree with them, although they do say that it improves with later books, so I'm looking forward to that. It's just the way that Steven Erikson writes. Sometimes he doesn't really properly get into the characters' heads. Sometimes the characters just feel like they're there to tell the story rather than for us to experience what they're experiencing. And I think, to be honest, even though I love these grand scale things, I'm a sucker for that kind of stuff. I love huge worlds. You can see here, Westeros, I love Game of Thrones and all that. I love like all the different players and all this thing all clashing together. I just worded that really stupidly, but I don't care. But yeah, I love that kind of stuff. But I think characters are so much more important. To me, characters are what really tell a good story. I just love characters and getting to know them. That's like the most important thing for me. That's why I do my own writing. I think characters is just the most important thing. I love creating good characters. So even though they are good characters, I feel like they are well made. It's just sometimes hard to really connect to them because of how it's written and because there's so many different points of view and you don't get to spend a lot of time with certain characters. But if you look carefully and if you really do pay attention, you can tell the way that certain characters will act in certain situations. And you can see the development. There is character development and there is good character here. You just have to sort of pay a lot of attention to really get it. As I said, I heard that there is an improvement on that in later books, and it wasn't awful. Like I said, it's just the way that he writes it. I would like to see a bit more, maybe a bit more background on some characters, a bit more internal monologue. Sometimes too much internal monologue can be bad, but there just isn't a lot of it here. There is some. It's really hard. Like, I found this quite a hard book to review because I'm so like torn. I'm just sort of saying it how I feel it. Back to about it being confusing. In terms of like heroes and villains, that's like a very simplistic way of putting it. You don't really know who the villains are and who the good guys are. There are no good guys and bad guys. Like, I still don't know some of the characters. Still don't know what they were really aiming for or whether they were like good or bad. Like, some characters, I really enjoyed characters like Lorne. So apparently my camera decided to run out of battery after I filmed the whole thing. So yeah, looks like we're re-recording the same thing again. Oh, it was going so well. I know, it's annoying, isn't it? So I think I was talking about characters. So Lorne, for example, I really enjoyed Lorne's character because she was the adjunct to the Emperor. I think that's how you say it. I don't know. So she was kind of having to balance these two personalities of being, you know, this high up person and her own personal feelings. So she had to balance, you know, duty, what she thought was right, her own vendettas towards people and her own ambitions. I really enjoyed the world. The world building was really cool, even though it was subtle and it wasn't like straight in your face. There's the gods who are playing a part. And you're hearing all these names, the gods and ascendants and warrens. There's all these different races, like the Talan Emas, the Tistandi, the Moranth. You know, there's all these races, and at first you're like, what? You don't really know what they are. But then gradually, as the story goes on, you're like, oh, okay. You pick up on things, and you kind of start to understand things as you read more about them. Even though we've only seen one continent and a few scenes from, I think, one other continent, I still really like what has been made here, and I can feel the weight of what this is. These are such dense books, and all the things that are moving, the wheels that are spinning. Everyone has their own agenda in these books. But yeah, I definitely think having experience in past series definitely helped with this one, because I'm now sort of better at juggling all these characters and perspectives, and I'm more used to it. I can see how intimidating this would be coming off of, you know, smaller books. And I also recommend that you make notes, because I did, and it helped a lot. It might seem excessive. I made notes on like the magic system and the different warrens and the races and the places and the people. That might seem excessive, but I mainly did it because I really want to talk about it in videos as well. So I want to make sure I'm really up to date on everything and that I'm spotting all these hints. Because I heard people, you know, there's people who reread this series like 15 times. It's crazy. And each time they say they notice like something new. So there's so much to this. So I'm trying to make sure I pick up on a lot of stuff. Because I think I want to actually make a spoiler review as well. Because there's just so much I want to say about this series, about this book. But I feel like I can't say too much about the plot or anything now, because like the great thing about it is that you go into it without knowing anything and you kind of learn it as you go. And I've also heard that there's not a lot of YouTube channels actually talking about this series, despite how popular it is. So I really want to start making some videos about it. And lately I have been jumping into all of these massive series, and I've been really into, you know, epic fantasy series, and I've kind of been biting off more than I can chew because I've been starting a lot of big series. So yeah. I have a lot of reading to do, but I should be making reviews on all of them. And I will be definitely reviewing the second book as soon as I read this. I read this one in like 5 days or something, and I'm planning on gobbling this thing up soon. I'm reading the first Dresden Files book at the moment, but when I'm done with that, I'm going to just devour this. You know, social distancing, quarantine, lockdown, we don't have much to do. I have been writing every day, but I've been reading a lot too, so I should be able to get through that thing pretty fast, and I'm excited to do that and start talking about it soon. Just another warning, I heard that the second book has a whole new location. It's in a different continent to the first, and a whole new cast of characters, apart from like a handful from the first book. So if you're not into series where the books, sometimes they'll jump to other cast of characters or to a different time period completely, then maybe this isn't for you. So sometimes you will be hopping between timelines or continents. I still feel like I'm missing stuff, and it's annoying me because I said it before. Although I do want to mention, even the author said, it's usually the make or break point is the first third of this book. A lot of people either don't read past that point and they give it up, or they read past that point and then they read the entire series. I kind of agree with him. Just make it past that point. Just push. And although it'll be tough, it will pay off. But it might not for this book. I personally enjoyed this book, but I still get the sense that this is almost just like the start of something huge. It all depends on tastes. It's a different type of book. It won't be for everyone, but I definitely recommend trying it. And this video has been, it's been a tough one, so I'd appreciate, you know, likes and all that, because this has been annoying. My Twitter is in the link below, so, you know, follow that if you want to be part of the writing community and all that, and, you know, book related stuff, you know, which is obvious because this is a book channel. I've also got my Instagram, but then I haven't posted much on there lately, but yeah, whatever, no one cares about that. So anyway, thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was useful. If it wasn't, tell me anything I could do to improve my review. I know this one was a bit all over the place, but that's partially because of technical difficulties, also because I do like to just tell people my thoughts and, you know, what I liked, what I didn't like. In the past I've tried to be all technical with reviews, but I think now I prefer to just tell you what I think and, you know, keep it simple. But yeah, even now I'm rambling, so I'm gonna end this video now, and I will see you next time. Well, I won't see you, you'll see me, but you know, yeah. Say bye. They're going. Don't be rude. There we go. The captain has spoken. That means the video's over. Goodbye.